So good afternoon. Lieutenant Governor Polito and I are honored to be here today to nominate Justice Dalila Arguelles-Wedlin to the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Justice Wendlandt majored in mechanical engineering at the University of Illinois, received her master's in science degree from MIT. And since that really didn't seem particularly tough, she also chose to pursue a graduate degree in engineering at MIT so she could challenge herself in math and science and build a robot. After that, because apparently that wasn't enough, she attended and graduated with honors from Stanford Law School. She wanted to use her engineering ability to solve complex problems and marry that with the law. She described herself as having fallen in love with science, math, and debate, and she is very accomplished in all three. The judges and lawyers with whom we spoke uniformly support Judge Wendlandt. Her colleagues and those who've appeared before her describe her as brilliant, a home run, a great colleague who compromises and has a terrific sense of humor. Several people used a phrase that's used often to describe athletes. She's the total package. She's patient, even-keeled, and down to earth. Her fellow justices know they can depend on her and have said that her decisions are true to the law and the facts of each case and demonstrate her open-minded approach to the issues. As an appellate court judge, she's authored 30 decisions over the past 3 years. She's also served on a number of committees and boards. She served on the SJC Advisory Committee on the Rules of Evidence and is the appeals court liaison to the probate and family court. She also sat on several internal committees geared towards supporting the infrastructure of the court: the Case Management Committee, the IT Steering Committee, and the Policies and Procedures Committees. I would expect her expertise in science and technology would be a terrific asset to the court on more than just case law. Each branch of the government will need to deploy technology in more creative ways to meet the demands of the public in the 21st century. Her colleagues also describe her as thoughtful and kind because she often leaves a well-timed note for someone who's run into trouble, and she bought a sewing machine to teach herself how to sew masks for healthcare workers when the pandemic struck. Finally, she's part of a familiar American story that sometimes gets lost in all the noise of today's politics. Her parents immigrated from Colombia to the United States for the educational opportunities and for a better life. Spanish was her first language, and while she's often been one of the only women, and often the only Latina in many of the rooms she's been in throughout her academic, business, legal, and judicial career, she's done nothing but shine in all of them, every single one. She also serves as a member of the Planning Committee for the Massachusetts Bar Association's Tiered Mentoring Program and is also a mentor to Northeastern University Hispanic law students for a national moot court competition, a program that's run by late Justice Ralph Gantz's wife, Deborah Ramirez. If confirmed by the Governor's Council, she'll be the first Latina to serve on the Massachusetts highest court. We have every confidence that Justice Wendlandt will bring a spectacular legal resume, a collegial way of working, a profound respect for the law, and a deep belief in the American justice system to her work on the Supreme Judicial Court if she's confirmed, and will serve with dignity and grace. We look forward to her confirmation hearing and have no doubt that she will make us all very proud of this nomination. And with that, I want to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Polito.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. I am proud to be here for this historic nomination. Justice Wendlandt is a brilliant engineer who will bring a unique perspective to our Supreme Judicial Court. The daughter of immigrants from Colombia, Justice Wendlandt will bring her voice to our highest court, a voice we need now more than ever. She has served as a mentor for women and girls throughout her career, and the impact she would make in this new position for young girls to see the first Latina woman serving in our highest court in this Commonwealth is profound. Justice Wendlandt is not only a successful professional, but is a mom to 3 children. I know firsthand how challenging it is to wear both hats and to balance profession and home, and you do it so well. Justice Wendlandt is a role model and an inspiration to women everywhere. First as an engineer and then as an attorney, she has chosen careers where women are underrepresented, and she has pushed hard to be where she is today. Her tireless work effort at home and in the office is exemplary, as she's worked diligently on advancing her career and raising her children. Her strong dedication to the community is demonstrated through her commitment to performing pro bono work in her years of public service. As part of National Judicial Outreach Month, she has spoken annually to groups of high school and college students. She presents in English and Spanish to a diverse group of students, generally from socioeconomically disadvantaged and often new immigrant backgrounds. Schools she's presented at include the English High School, Roxbury Community College, and Charlestown High School. Last year, she participated in the Boston to Montgomery Judicial Court, where members of the Massachusetts Judiciary visited with Alabama judges at an interstate reception prior to visiting the Equal Justice Initiative's Legacy Museum and National Memorial for Peace and Justice. The event was organized as part of an effort to educate the judiciary about the history and impact of race in our judicial system. Justice Wendlandt is caring, thoughtful, and dedicated to upholding the law and fighting for justice. Time and again, she has been described as hardworking, capable, and collaborative. And throughout our deliberative process, we heard over and over again that Justice Wendlandt would be a fair and respected member of the Supreme Judicial Court. She possesses the temperament to handle its complex and challenging issues. She approaches questions with focus and an open mind. She has risen to the challenge before in all that she sees her mind to, and I know that if confirmed, she will again, serving as Justice on the Supreme Judicial Court. One of her colleagues stated that her appointment would be a source of pride to the members of the bar and the citizens of this Commonwealth, and I am confident that statement is true. I look forward to working with my colleagues in the Governor's Council to confirm her appointment when presiding over her hearing, and as always, ask for the Council's advice and consent. It is now my honor to introduce you to Justice Wendlandt.
Thank you, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, for putting your trust in me by nominating me to be an Associate Justice on the Supreme Judicial Court. I am honored and humbled to be considered by you worthy to sit alongside the legal giants that currently make up that bench, and to follow in the footsteps of the well-respected jurists who have historically occupied those seats. I'm grateful to Bob Ross, Lauren Green-Petrino, Emily Gauthier, and the chairman and members of the SJC Nominating Committee for their time and dedication to the important work of vetting and building a team for the Commonwealth's highest court. Thank you to the members of the Governor's Council for taking the time to meet with me several years ago. I look forward to our continued conversations as you endeavor to perform your significant work in determining whether to confirm my nomination. Thank you to Jeff, my husband, and my children, who without hesitation have supported me as I transitioned from private practice to devoting my life to public service. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to thank my parents, who, as you've heard, immigrated to this country from Colombia, South America in the 1960s. I am keenly aware that I have this opportunity, this nomination today, because of their decision to build a family in this new land and adopt it as their own home. If confirmed, I will, as I always have, dedicate myself to making my parents and all of those who have entrusted their faith in me proud. Thank you.
Start on topic for either of us or for Judge Wendland.
If I could go back to the microphone. I'm curious what is the connection between mechanical engineering and the law? And can you kind of describe that transition from MIT to Stanford to now the SJC?
I think, at least for me personally, which is the only thing I can speak of, the transition was obvious. Engineering requires you to look at the data and follow it where it goes, and to roll up your sleeves when there's a problem that looks like it's unsolvable. For me, the law is very similar, especially when you do high-end legal work. Often the answer is not clear, but if you're confident in your skills, you roll up your sleeves, you bring out the big guns, and you just do your job.
Can you share something in Spanish for us to actually hear your side? It's something very important for the community to possibly be the first Latina being nominated. How do you feel about this? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself in Spanish, if that's okay?
Sí, yo estoy muy orgullosa de estar aquí. De mayoría por mis padres, porque ellos vinieron a este país de Colombia para realizar sus sueños para sus hijos. Y yo sé hoy que mi padre, que murió hace 13 años, está en el cielo mirando con orgullo él mismo. Yo estoy muy orgullosa de estar aquí, es un honor. Y gracias por preguntarme eso. Mi idioma primero es español y me gusta hablarlo cuando puedo. Gracias.
¿Qué marca te gustaría dejar en la corte? Viendo que hay muchos latinos aquí, ¿qué marca te gustaría dejar en la corte?
Yo pienso que la marca que quiero dejar en el corte es de una persona que trabaja duro, muchas horas para poder lograr lo que es mejor para la gente de Massachusetts. Gracias.
Governor, if you could speak to you have one more appointment. This appointment is to, I presume, fill Justice Budd's position there, waiting for one more retirement of Justice Knight.
I think several of you noted this in some of the stories you wrote earlier today. We're working on a schedule where the court has made clear to us that they would like us, if we can, to fill Justice Lenk's seat and Justice Budd's seat if Justice Budd gets elevated to the late Chief Justice Ralph Gantz's seat by the end of the year. And I completely get and understand that. The calendar doesn't really, the calendar makes this a tight fit, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that we get appointment or nominations to the Governor's Council on a timely basis. And then it's going to be up to them to work with one another and with the witnesses and others they want to bring in to have their hearings to try and get it all wrapped up in a package by the end of the year. But it's going to be a little bit of a sprint.
You will have to name the entire court after that second nomination if they're approved. Is that significant to you? Does it feel different having appointed the entire branch of government in your 2 terms?
Well, I guess I'd say a couple things. First of all, I think both the Lieutenant Governor and I are, we assumed that at some point during our tenure we would have a chance to nominate people to serve on the SJC. I don't think either one of us ever imagined that some twists of fate would result in the opportunity we would have to nominate everybody who serves on that incredibly important court. But the other thing I would point out, because I think it's important, is if I've learned nothing about this process, not just the SJC process, but the Superior Court process, the Probate and Family Court process, the Juvenile Court process, the Housing Court process, the Land Court process, the District Court process, every single one of these appointments, every single one of these nominations that we make is an appointment until the age of 70. And they are all incredibly important to the people who walk through those doors looking for their day in court. And I know I would ask you to speak to this one because you're an attorney and you were closer to this than I was coming in. But I guess I would say that the reason why we ended up with this opportunity to make all these appointments, nominations to the SJC, involved, a couple of really crummy, awful things. Somebody's spouse got horribly sick and somebody else died. And honestly, I would have preferred not to have that happen. But we certainly accept the fact that this is a really important set of decisions, and we always treated it that way. And so far, the response we've gotten to the people we nominated to be on the SJC has been almost universally positive. But I take all of these nominations, every single one of them, especially as somebody who's not an attorney, really seriously, because the courts really matter, and the people who sit in those chairs really matter too. You should speak to this, though.
Thank you for the question. It clearly is an important moment for our Commonwealth, and it is an honor for the governor and our team to have this set of circumstances to fill out this court. And we work hard, not alone, but with a team of people that evaluates the quality, the capability, the experience and judgment of the individuals that come forward to be considered for these positions. In addition to that, I would say, as the governor said, all these courts need people who are capable and experienced and have that right temperament for people to feel that they're accessing justice and accessing a system that's fair to them. And I have to say, as an attorney, I am so impressed with the number of people that we have at our reach to be able to call upon to fill these various seats within the trial court. And the final point I would make is thankfully we have a robust process of evaluating these candidates with a judicial nominating council who works really hard at that part of it, and our governor's legal office, as well as the governor's council of people to vet these candidates. It's not an easy process. It is not for the faint of heart, and I truly believe that the best rise to the top. And if there's any point in time in the history of our Commonwealth, it is now that we really need this team of people in our judicial system to be available. And we're very grateful for those individuals, especially in this instance. Justice Wendlandt had a beautiful career in the private sector, and to leave that to turn it into public service is really inspirational, and is certainly a situation where you can look toward if you're some lawyer out there that thinks maybe that could be me serving in a position in our court or even on the highest court of our Commonwealth. So it's a really important moment, but it's an honor and a bit humbling for the governor and me to be a part of it.
Other stuff?
What are you hearing from Tuscany's with the election? Everything going well?
So far, the feedback is really varied with respect to turnout, but that's only because 2.3 million people have already voted one way or another. I think what Secretary Galvin said yesterday was probably about right, which is turnout will be above what the presidential election was 4 years ago. Probably significantly above that, but all of the work that he and the legislature and our local officials and all the rest of us did to create pathways to voting earlier, to voting by mail, will probably make it possible for people to process what will be a really big election day with a reasonable amount of space. And I think the big challenge that I've gotten when I've talked to some of the local folks is just the work they got to do to count votes, given the amount of volume they're all going to be dealing with.
How are you going to vote for Joe Biden?
Pardon me?
Did you vote for Joe Biden?
I blanked it.
How are you going to monitor things from a public safety standpoint tonight, tomorrow, as things develop?
Yeah, we have a regular conversation that's going on with our colleagues in municipal government and in law enforcement, and I think our view on this one is to be prepared to support local communities if they ask for our help, and our hope is that whatever happens will be followed by what we would describe as peaceful and appropriate celebrations, protests, demonstrations, whatever term you might want for them. But we do want to be there to support local communities if they think they need assistance to maintain the peace.
Last question.
Governor Baker, we just say to restaurants, after your executive order yesterday, a lot of them are concerned. The way they've set up their restaurants, everything's social distance, they put plexiglass up, and now this was I know this was not an easy decision to make, but they're saying we have it safe, and now closing it down at 9:30, especially on the weekends, is tough. But they say the way it's set up, it is safe. Sending people home may open the door for more people to gather in more facilities.
I guess the first thing I'd say is that COVID has come with all kinds of difficult decisions, difficulties, and in many cases tragedies for virtually everybody. I can't think of, a very small number of people have been untouched by this whole thing, and people have made enormous sacrifices. And our employer community, with a lot of help from the Reopening Advisory Board that the Lieutenant Governor chaired, has made enormous strides in coming up with ways to make it possible for people to work and be customers of our employer community safely. And one of the things that's critical to us is that schools stay open and that businesses continue to be able to operate. And in that context, given all of the feedback we've gotten from so many folks in local government and from local boards of health and from our contact tracers and others about the amount of activity that takes place that's not regulated, that's mostly going on in private residences late into the night, we felt it was important to send a message. The people after 10 o'clock at night should be home with the people that they spend every day with, and to do what we can to limit the spread of COVID that for the most part at this point is moving through informal channels and informal arrangements and casual engagements between people who for the most part know each other. And the reason that's so important now is because of that, are letting our guard down. We have a 300% increase in daily positive case rates since Labor Day, 150% increase in hospital census, daily hospital COVID census since Labor Day, and a lot of concern in our healthcare and hospital community about what this trend will mean if it keeps running for another 8 to 10 weeks. And our view was better to do something now that we consider to be a targeted intervention. And I get the fact that it's disruptive, and it's especially disruptive for folks in the restaurant and the recreation business. But better to do something targeted now, send a message about how important it is for people to stop gathering in big groups. Remember, we also moved the gathering limit to 10 for private events and private gatherings. Basically encourage people strongly to be home with the people they spend every day with by 10 o'clock at night, and see if we can't do something to bend what is a very disturbing trend that if we just let run, will have real consequences for our healthcare system and ultimately for the rest of our economy as well. We'll see what the data looks like in a month, but our hope is that it will look better.
How do you manage that?
Pardon me?
How do you manage that? College kids gather. I talked to a couple on the street today saying, well, maybe we'll do it, but most likely we'll gather.
So one of the things we've learned from the beginning of this is people, as a general rule in Massachusetts, actually do follow the rules. And one of the things we talked to our colleagues in local government yesterday for about an hour on a Zoom call, and one of the things they had said to us before is, we don't really have a lot of tools in the toolbox to send people home at a lot of these gatherings, even when we get calls and complaints from neighbors and others. And we now have the ability, they now have the ability to say, there's a gathering rule, about 10, max of 10, and you guys and gals really need to be home by 10. So it gives them, for the first time, a vehicle that they can use to just tell people that it's time to go home.
Dr. Baker, Harvard epidemiologist characterized some of the orders that came out with yesterday as pandemic theater, particularly referencing the wearing masks outside all the time now. Is that kind of along this line of new messaging that you're doing, that you're kind of coming out the heaviness that people need to adhere to these things to get the cases back under control? Or do you really think that's going to get cases to go down?
Boy, I don't think anybody who's going to be affected by that gathering rule or by that stay-at-home advisory thinks that's theater, at least not based on the incoming that you and I got. What I would say with respect to the mask order, if my wife and I go for a walk, which we do many times, we know that in many cases when we go for that walk, we're not going to run into a lot of people, right? I take this with me. And if I see anybody, I put it on. And I can't express how important it is for all of us to execute on what I would call proper mask etiquette. The simple truth is here, the CDC has said this. Dr. Fauci has said this. Many other folks in the epidemiological community have said this. If people would just wear these things religiously for 30 days, we could kill the virus. Religiously wear them for 30 days. The virus can't survive unless it can jump from me to you, to you, to you, to you, to you, to you. It's got a shelf life in each individual. And the way it survives is by jumping from one person to the next. If two people are wearing these, the ability that virus has to transmit from one person to another is profoundly small. And I guess I would say that, from my point of view, it is in some respects about message, but it's also about making clear to people that we actually have some pretty well-known, well-established, well-tested tools to stop transmission. And if we would just commit to being disciplined, vigilant, and consistent about it, we could take all the gas out of the run rate that's creating the concern we have right now in our healthcare community and our hospital industry, and we wouldn't be talking about what we need to do with respect to gatherings generally. Part of this is about, I said this yesterday, this is about personal responsibility. And if everybody in Massachusetts, everybody, commits to this, we're all going to have one heck of a holiday season, and I would love to see that happen. And by the way, congratulations again, Your Honor. Much appreciated. Thanks.